How y'all doing? Barrel City Podcast. I'm gonna find y'all a nickname eventually. But we right here are doing a movie review of Jungle Fever, a production directed and written by Spike Lee. Very, very interesting. I'm just got done making it in the first half of the movie where they're introducing Angela Tucci to the character Flip, played by, of course, Spike Lee, if you've never seen the film before. And Jungle Fever, I have to say, Jungle Fever has already shown me a certain level of interest in the fact of this man starting off his day, and he's, a traditional brother, living with his wife, his kid. And as you see them walking and creating this relationship in the first half of this movie, you start to establish an identity. And after you see this identity, you start to realize he has this presumed career, which he's trying to be considered serious in, especially looking at the context and the different behavior in him trying to challenge the fact that he wanted some more diversity outside of already an Italian American and Angela Tucci, who did not have any experience. So you see this dynamic, and the first thing I'm looking at is I'm paying attention to body language. Like, you watch this first bit of the movie, when the introduction of her, they bring her from the back to the front, somebody that doesn't know much. And the way in which they kind of describe a person being introduced to someone and they knowing it's some foolery that they working on. And that foolery you're already seeing is kind of matching up with something that is a little more a setup. That's the first thing I got my views off of it, looking at this movie. This is really just a partial, as we split this down the middle in so many different ways, as I will do it as many parts as I have available to kind of get a full grasp of this movie. But just in this first impression, I can already tell she already got the fever. The way she looked at him, the body language, the scan from the belt to the chest, looking into the eyes, the glance coming back in, and then truly getting more engulfed in the appearance of Flip, and even asking where his name came from. He's more worried about the fact of he asked for a particular kind of help and bringing diversity. He didn't even catch on the fact that she was already in a flirtatious position as she came from high school, working through temp service. So we're going to go into another chapter and we're going to get an idea, and I'm going to give y'all a grasp onto another part of this. So as we continue on, Jungle Fever. Part 2, breaking it down just in another end of it. Now, as we get into the second phase of it, it's apparent that with Angie, she has the dynamic in which, as we make it into the next phase, her family and the role in which she is a motherly figure for them as she cooks and does most of the cleaning. It's split up between her dad, and her two brothers. But you start to see that dynamic becoming more or less, as you see, as a dependency. Has somebody come there, the brother's pressing the dude. That type vibe just already lets you know the kind of energy, it's the homes of, I think, majority of people who come from a particular culture, Italians, Hispanics, especially blacks in the urban culture. And this dynamic, as we see as they're moving forward, there's an extension of which she was looking for some assertiveness from the guy that came there, just putting out that, I want you to stand up for yourself. I want you to do this, don't be scared of my brothers. But never was the sense of it like a fear. Oh boy, just had a sense of picking out those battles. So then you go into the latter part, and as we see the difference in their relationship, and that goes on, it goes on to the next scene. He's at his homeboy crib, he's talking to his homeboy, he's talking about him having kids and wanting kids and being in this space. So then truly, like, really, when you get into the next nick of it, and you really seeing this whole like change into the next scene. You get them together and they're working late. Already in that scene, it's like, this some romantic shit right here. Like, you gotta be careful with this. And as you see, when they getting in this comfort shit, this is when it gets really on some nitty gritty. Like, it's some real low down shit about to line up. So you seeing it line up, and then she's sitting there. He's like, "Well, it's a good time for you to go home." She's like, "Nah, I'm cool. I want my brothers to sweat it out. I think they all need this and this. They ain't appreciating me. Woo woo." He's like, "Oh, word." She was like, "Yeah, I love cooking, all this shit." So I already knew off the player shit. My nigga Wesley was like, or the nigga Flip was like, "Hey, buddy, like, well, okay, yeah, he feeding this shit." But you know, them late night teens, he already trying to, they playing a field low key. This is a level, if you're watching, it's a field being played. She letting you know I'm cooking plates. He's interested. Remind you, like I said from the first part of when I described it from the beginning, she already got the fever. She liked what she seen from the jizz. So he's kind of like catching up. She trying to put food in your belly. Fellas, don't let him put food in your belly, buddy, because there's other things being attached to the bullshit. So she, insisted she'll bring some spaghetti, some lasagna, excuse me, because she said she liked making spaghetti. He's like, and he brought up the whole lasagna shit. So he already trapped. He was trapped when he was playing a little ball. He didn't even know he in the jungle already. He playing with the wild tigers. So from that part, now we split into the third part, which is gonna come up. So we're gonna see what comes up with the third part itself and how that all comes together. Part 3. Oh my. Part 3. And the first bit, we're getting down to now he's having these lunch dates with old girl, like I said in part 2. And he's getting familiar, he got comfortable. Buddy is in here, and he was flirting with it, and it went from flirting with it to now, this is the consistency he has created. Every time they work together, they're going to work to the night. He's looking forward to working to the night. And the crazy part about it, he's hanging out with old girl, they eating together, they tithing together, they having all this. They ain't even getting all the crazy good food. They eating Chinese food. So he's selling for Chinese food over his wife's cooking. Of course, he already complained about, let me go back in the beginning, which I felt like I left out. He's eating oatmeal. He's over the oatmeal. He said he's tired of it. But that analogy, when he was talking to his daughter, and his daughter was, asking about the birds and the bees, and she's enjoying the black love of her parents. But then you get into a part like that it was in the beginning, and I'm mad it slipped out in that first bit I didn't add in there, is he's walking his daughter and he has this enthusiasm. And that's the thing in which, the light, the love, the laughter, that feeling of the black love. But he's still explaining to his daughter, who's grasping the facts of the world and is paying attention, old enough to know what's going on, even in the sense of her knowing that her parents are, ritualistically, having intercourse every morning, and she enjoys that space, like I said. So as he's building this opportunity with this girl, this Italian woman, and Angie, then we're gonna put the name to her, Angie. He's flipping the switch. He grasped it, and in the moment he starts asking these questions of, who's gonna pick you up from the subway? How your man doing? What are you feeling about that? And they're relating on feeling like they're stuck, feeling like they're in the same ritual, stuck in the same routine, and now introducing, themselves into now a fact of something fresh, something new. Now you gotta watch this, fellas. Watch this, ladies, too. When you get into something in your life and you feel a routine building, you feel a love building, you feel you get something new in there that isn't love. Take that back. You have this new infatuation of emotion. Let me bring that back to reality. It ain't no love. And he's infatuated with this new routine, new space, new energy, new everything. He's feeling like, this is something, this is so grasping. This is something I've always wanted. And going back, she already knew this brother was married. Brother is sitting there, he's married, he got this vibe. This is in the time of which, when we looking at this movie, you don't see the self-restraint of both people. And most importantly, she's already not even going to take any more than, that extra inch, because she already was infatuated, brother, with or without the ring. And she looked at him on the fact that she was already infatuated by, he was from uptown, he's from Harlem. She's from a little small part of, I think of Bridgeport. So she's used to seeing just her people. So she's coming out this new world, and he's experiencing her new world. And I think he's gotten, I don't even think, I know the feeling of when you get the understanding of somebody else's world, and then you looking at it, and then you're able to, building comparison in the fact of y'all consistency in which y'all are so used to being a part of, and now having, this fresh energy, like I said before. But then it draw down when finally at the end he's gotten close, he's gotten this space in this chapter, he's found this opportunity to there, which they've finally got them breaking apart, and she's about to go home and that, and he tell her straight up, listen, I ain't never cheated on my wife before. And then he was like, I'm married. And then after, it's like he thinks she don't know that. He's saying the words in which he's already admitted that he's already cheated in his heart. He cheated his emotions against his wife, and then committed to understanding and setting apart this situation with the reality of, hey, I'm really invested in my love of my wife. I'm happily married. And that's when that devil crept in, just to keep it, not even just say it's religious, but speak on the fact of just anything, just creating that bridge. And when she walked off and she said, I know, and all that, it was still an open door. She never closed it. He never closed it. So when he pulled her back and he went to busting them doonies down, he already knew what the play was. He knew what he wanted. He already knew what it was. The comparison of skin, his spirit saying what his trauma feel like, and for the love that she has for him, what he thinks is love, the infatuation that he expressed, and how he say the people around him, all the names he was called, even from white to black, because of how dark his skin was, and her embracing his that quote unquote, what I say, insecurity, even though he's already married to a lighter skinned woman. It was this, like, his insecurities had broken out. And now when she started, I don't say stroking his ego, but getting that part of where they're building this relationship and they're experiencing each other's lives and they're explaining these things and they're building this time together. And for him to bust the Dooney down, he busted Dooney down for me the first lunch date when he asked about the spaghetti and the lasagna. And she said she was gonna bring him some food. That was a violation, which, nowadays, companies, to prevent, incidents of, company disorder or things being taken out of context, you get a part of which now he's then, separated from, I don't want to say separated, but he kind of was put in a situation where he was to cheat. And that's why they made HR, to prevent these high value quality people, infringing on the fact of, getting too personal, spending too much time together, being out past 12 o'clock, doing quote unquote work, but, buddy and busted down. Now you lead into the fact he going and walking his daughter home, he then creates this chapter of, yeah, I think he's in his head. He wants to go back there. He's far away from his family. He's now infringing. Now in the little girl's eyes, which he admitted to already wanting a different taste of oatmeal and hasn't been eating the food, and now has created this new relationship in void. He's not talking to his daughter. He doesn't have a relationship with his daughter. That walk to school is empty. He didn't have the same love, the same happiness. She said, you ain't smiling, you ain't this, you ain't that, all after the day of that, because he's now investing his spirit in something else. He's now mentally and spiritually breaking from his relationship. And this was a beautiful take on this, because you now see where when people emotionally and physically cheat, and then the things in which now with him being in a void of getting away from his daughter, in the sense not really being away from her, but he's away from her because now he's made this commitment. And that's something, we could say this on the spirit realm level. He's not. He's in a whole different realm, something else. Even going from the point at which when she spoke, he was not there. He wasn't attentive, in which she's already clocking that. She's already aware of this. She acknowledged these things in which how she's been watching him. He acknowledged that how she's so aware, and so much into these things, and so in tune. And in this very moment, and she was so in tune to him, he was so disconnected. And that disconnect now is going to bridge something into a future. And now you see where this is starting to lead for some people who may, looking at this movie, this part connected to me where I was like, you can see the disconnect in everybody. Just this review of it. Just this idea how people can literally take yourself out of a situation of peace and prosperity. Maybe everything ain't perfect. But now, since he's opened this door, this portal, and his daughter seeing this portal's being open, and now seeing him being separated. So I'm gonna call that a split, and let me split into part 3.5. Just the idea of the store owner. He goes in, he's got his dad. First thing first, he's taking care of him. Dad's declining. He's still running the newspaper. The candy shop with also having the newspapers and everything else. It's the spot for everybody that's Italian in the area. You break down from there, you get, the different atmosphere and different emotions of, as he's leaving, the dad pretty much conforming to them in the sense of like, yeah, I know I'm watching your whole routine and all this, but things change. Dad's still stuck in the past doing old inventory. So then as he's leaving, he made breakfast for his father, said he would speak to him during lunch. Before he can even leave, the attachment of the father being like, hey, make sure you say bye to your mother. His love for his wife, he's still trying to keep a memory of her around, which he done created a shrine. So now you see he now got this. It's not even a relationship no more. The relationship is not saying it's gone or dead, but now it's passed on to another phase. He hasn't moved forward. So in fact, he's stuck where he's been at. And him being stuck mentally where he's been at is creating this cycle. And now we're going to see, hopefully I'm going to see how that goes from the rest of the movies. Spike pinpointed that. And he pinpointed the fact of, that shrine in the embodiment, kind of just like marriage. Because I almost left out this tip on part 3. I can't forget it. He emphasized, I almost forgot, he emphasized, and I remember this key point of the wedding ring. The wedding ring on Spike, on Flip's hand. When he was sleeping with Angie, the wedding ring was very prevalent in the moment of it just being in this shot. And you just seeing this wedding ring and everything he's doing, from everything to put it to the side, busting the dooney down, hitting on the desk till he sleep. The wedding ring is still prevalent. Same thing, the shrine being prevalent for the connecting to that the father of the store owner and the guy in which Angie is quote unquote dating, but isn't got a covenant with. So you go from that point, and then you go into the next phase of this, and you get to a space where now, he's in the store, like I said, everybody's in there, homeboy over there listening to fucking Public Enemy. It's just like the modern day, Italian. He's listening to Flavor Flav. The old lady like, turn that shit down. You ain't really fucking with, I ain't fucking with that da da da. He like, nah, that's what's hip. Fuck all the other shit. Go inside. He's in the store. But at the same time, it's quick to sit there and say, his reference and speaking on the fact of like, oh yeah, I ain't fucking with no N-word, blah, blah, blah. Got all this hateful nigga talk that, as they, as the Furious Five will call it, Despicable Five. He got the hateful energy, but he still listens to the music. And then you get this whole influence in the spot of identity. The guy, pretty much saying, you drinking all this motherfucking egg shit, you getting this little drunk, little eggnog shit, and you drinking all that shit up, and you trying to suppress your emotions because your old lady fucking another dude. That's what one of the dudes in the shop said. So he's like, the other guy's combative to that. But in reality, it goes back to the identity issue. Like, even in the sense of breaking it down from Flip's aspect of his identity being a black man, and how people outside of the black race, quote unquote, black or white, I've always, attacked him directly. about his complexion, to then also the stereotypes of bringing down blonde hair, blue eyes. That's so important. Oh yes, this and this, and that's what them kind of women. So identifying, oh well, all these Italian women want to date outside their race, and that's a lot of people. Now this breaks down into the fact of the intellectual, ideas of what is racially different, but also how these women are seeking outside of their quote unquote race. So then you're looking at this buildup now from everybody having this conversation, and that a black woman comes in. And if you ever seen Poetic Justice, it's the star, the shopkeeper. That's the first movie I could think of. She was a hairdresser, and she comes inside, and she's talking to Polly. I think his name was Polly, the dude that runs the candy shop. And she's like, hey, why we ain't got this and this? You talk to your father about it. I feel like, at least get the New York Times, this and this, at least the Saturday paper, it bring that flow. And then he brings up, his father feels like it's, it's not a top seller, quote unquote, pretty much saying it's an urban attraction. I don't know anything about the time period. Maybe not. I'm still grasping a lot of it, but we look into that, and you see she's breaking down this, and she's genuine and genuine and giving, and tipped him, and also did this. And he is an infatuation with her as much as she's just nice to him, and she's genuine again, and he's attracted to her. And even from that point, he's like, I'm still gonna stick my neck out for you to get this paper for you and do what I need to do for you. And she was like, cool, hey, I appreciate you. And she went, he gave her the papers that they usually have on subscription that her parents get, and she's got, or they read the paper. And as she moves out, the atmosphere of the people in there, the Italians, already waiting for her to leave. They talked about how attractive she was, but also how low level she was, and she kind of looks like Diana Ross, but at the same time, she ain't up to par to this and that. And he defends her, even though she got she can get him an application to he can go to Brooklyn school and all these different things to further himself. This is another parody, because this is the boyfriend of Angie technically, so they both are looking to advance. But Angie's advance and his advance are similar in the sense of what they're looking for, but the standard in which their families and their community isn't standing for, in the fact of when even attracting the thing of equal rights and black people, and even thinking about how togetherness, the first thing people are going to say is, well, don't ever stick your neck out for somebody that ain't your own. And that goes for so many different communities. So it was just a great blurb. I'm so sorry for this part 3 to 3.5. It's like, wow, like these are the people who are truly under attack, and they all got the same agenda. They got the same mentality. But because they're being held back from their respective attractions, for Angie and even her boyfriend, I think Polly, I think his name was, it changes the whole dynamic of the relationship that they have, because they both have the same things, the same ideas. They just can't live out their love, quote unquote, their infatuations, because love, you got to do more than that. So I don't know. We about to see. I'm going to go on into part 4. So talk to y'all soon. Well, here we go. This is part 4. Would it be a part 0.5 on that shit, but I decided to kind of chill out on it. So we're breaking it down. We're getting into the phase of, Flip pretty much is saying, hey, make me partner or I'm out. So he dipped. Him and old boy had words. Shit moved on. His boo thing at the job, seeing him moving on. But now he's in the phase. He had the park. He talking to his homeboy. Had homeboy meet him out there, because he's gonna meet his brother regardless out there. He gonna give Buddy some money. His older brother, which was I ain't feeling it. He got a crackhead brother. He got a daddy was a preacher, think a deacon, and his mama just love her son. I ain't think it was a deep detail, but that's the first thing I should have put out there. Part 2. I'm just missing all around. I got everything mixed up. But pays attention, brings old Gator in here. which is his older brother, which is Samuel Jackson. He shows up at the park, but before he shows up at the park with Holly Berry, which is his new girl, Vivian, of course, and they just doing crackhead shit. Before that even comes up, let me draw into the conclusion. Him, Spike Lee, which is homeboy, which, like I told you, he met and everything, which, they were, Spike wants a child, which his old lady's on birth control because she's trying to further her career. Understandable. Black sister trying to make it movement, but he's trying to, he wants to expand and get his own kids of his own that he can influence and get, things outside of him being a high school teacher. So, Spike and Angie are telling their friends how they're in a interracial relationship. God damn it. Interracial relationship. And the get back of one like, all right, bro, but you ain't fuck her. You ain't fuck her though, bro. You done cheated, but you spiritually, you with her, but you ain't like he told him, I'm cheating on my wife. I finally cheated on this. Homeboy wasn't mad, but he cheated on her. It's the fact that he became a white woman, and then on the fact that he fucked the white, which he kind of didn't want to tell the truth about, because the implications in which, he would be seen, but he's also was like still trying to verify and say, I'm still black. Like, I'm still black. Even if I do fuck with her, I'm still black, right? I'm still, like, he's still confiding in the fact, like, I ain't no different. Like, at the end of the day, it's kind of progressive, as he puts it out. Meanwhile, Angie, her homegirls pretty much was like, hey, you must be fucking with the blonde hair, blue eye. And she like, nah, I'm going with the dark skin. I'm going with chocolate love. So other homegirl, one was very movement. It was like, hey, bro, no, the block gonna be hot. These niggas, don't bring them around. Like, last motherfucker came around here, he was Puerto Rican. They killed the niggas. So, putting out that, everybody knows a murder that was happening in the town, that pretty much, the community put them away. So they already put out that, which she wasn't aware of. Angie. But the homegirl then was like, hey, proceeded to be like, I don't really fuck with it. Like, her face was fucked up. Like, they both weren't feeling it. One homegirl was like more or less just pushing it with a progressive mind, but still was like, still ain't a good idea. The other homegirl was like, bro, you with a mooly, which I had to break down the terms of. Mooly pretty much is eggplant. That's what I got from it. So he's an eggplant. Don't know how that is, an idea. If somebody has any ideas on the Italian culture to know what that really means, cool. But from now going on, like from there and everything else, like that's just like a crazy, like that, the get back of both. One's like, hey man, you gonna have a challenge with that interracial relationship, especially an Italian girl, all this shit, she come from this town, these motherfuckers ain't fucking with it. And then the other end is like, yeah, we ain't fucking with it, and that motherfucker will get killed if he go out here and do anything outside of what we feel is appropriate. Or in general, just we're gonna just kill him because he's black. So she's fighting that, he's fighting that, which is either bring them together or break them apart. And I think in any interracial relationship, that's the defining line. And from black to white, for some people would say Spanish to black. I still don't get the difference, but it comes to be a difference of some sorts. You're attacking it from all these different cultural ends. Just this interracial challenge that's been set. So now, as his homeboy was like, bro, y'all both got the jungle fever. The history of interracial relationships being put in the forefront in this very moment. So as girls happy to say, hey man, I'm with him. I like him. He's cool. I got him at this fancy job. So now I'm in my imagery, I'm already thinking, shorty coming from somewhere, getting a certain kind of picture, and she's seeing the black man in a position of power. He's an architect, he's doing these things, which she's the secretary. So in the reality, you see that, in relationships and marriages, it's like I said, go back to even when he was cooking with his wife, and she was pretty much like, hey, I don't think it's a good idea to challenge these two white men before he even resigned. And he found an issue with that. That was the first bit of conflict where he felt like she didn't have his back. And then going to the fact of Angie just a stay-at-home kind of shorty, just how she's raised. So her being a secretary and more or less, I don't want to say she's submitting to him, but she's in a submissive role at night, and she's pretty much not challenging him. It created that comfort, like I said, that which would be considered love, but it's the infatuation. She has infatuation for him as well as he has infatuation for her, but they're not in the same level. And then this relationship is already a dynamic of quote unquote, control. Secretary to boss, quote unquote. So when these things separate and Spike does his part and then cut from Angie's part and they go to now Gator, Samuel Jackson, with his girl coming through and they have their moment and he's milking somebody else away from his mom and now he's milking his brother for money. Buddy comes over there busting the jig for the moolah. Brother was like, bro, you're not gonna get me for no moolah doing a little jig. And Buddy was like, shit, you want me to knock some old people out? Nigga, I ain't got no problem. You know I knock an old bitch out about some motherfucking money. So he's already creating this moral dilemma. He don't want to see his brother, committing a crime or harassing the community for money just to be a crackhead. He was like, dancing crackhead, because I'm on that rock. So you see this dynamic he's created, this relationship of laughing and the hee ha ha, but in seriousness of I'm sick. And he really out here like milking niggas with the sickness because they love him and these are his family. This is family, his loved ones, and they want him to have a genuine, relationship. They want him to be real. But now, as these things move on, we're finishing up this fourth chapter in the sense of this movie, and we're getting to a good point in the middle of now where this dynamic is going to change. So, all right, here from y'all into the next chapter. Here we gonna go and interact with, seeing what's gonna happen next. So we're gonna see. Chapter 5 coming up. Part 5, man. Part 5. Now, we ain't getting into the nitty gritty now. He sat there and told his partner what it was. He went on a date with old girl, took her ass to the soul food restaurant first off. Took her to the block. Like any nigga, take her to the block, right? Show her around. So they about to go get some soul food. Of course, there's a sister, Queen Latifah, is in this movie. She up in here, sister power sister. She ain't serving them. She's the waitress. She ain't serving them. She got what? They waited for 30 minutes. Brother creates a disarray about it. Flip, Wesley Snipes is still feeling some kind of way about this shit. He like, hey man, you let me hide y'all. My girl over here looking crazy. I'm showing her what the block is. But the thing is, he's trying to force this, he's putting her in a position, like this is your old lady. Niggas ain't looking at it the same way when you walk around with that sister on y'all. That acceptance ain't the same. So he got a little issue. He's got a little problem. He's mad not at the fact that she ain't serving us, the fact that he sees a difference. He feel like I'm trying to be happy. Y'all not accepting me for being happy. I'm happy here. And, Queen Latifah said him right. She was like, hey, bro, you niggas come up here, get your little education. You go out here, getting your little white bitch in here, bring them into our area, bring them in our space, trying to force them on people, which has this understanding in his own place. So he's like fighting it back like, shit, I'm just asking you to come with some motherfucking general service, set me where I am. And he went back and forth. She, threw some jabs. He threw some jabs, and that thing, shit, your ass pretty much fired. He leaves there to go street vendoring, walking, going to get the little money on, get some little food and shit. And really, she's like, hey, you gonna stay with your wife? And he's like, I don't know. She said, so what we doing? He clears it up and was like, I don't know, shit, really. Just feeling through the vibes. And you see that's the problem. He was feeling through the vibes. He over vibe checking off of some shit that he felt over creating intimacy when the fact he pretty much was trading in his family for the fact of quote unquote happiness. It was a saying that came to my mind, the devil gonna give you everything you want. He gonna make you happy. He gonna say you can do it. God give you choice, but devil ain't ever gonna bite back on the fact that you going with the sin and you gonna allow it to take you. And it's gonna overtake you mentally and it's gonna overtake you spiritually. And guess what he did? He let it take him mentally and let him take him spiritually. And now he's trapped in the portal. He out here now. He in the deep end. Now, remind you, he told his homeboy, he's married. He knows his wife. Their wives are friendly. Shit like that. It's he is spraying to his homeboy that. Coming back, he going, he walking, come back to the spot. This old lady throwing this shit out the window. My boy Flip over there looking like, what the fuck? Nigga the block, the crackhead, niggas grab me his shit. She tell him, fuck you, nigga, bop, 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 bop. Motherfucker ain't shit, blah, blah, blah. He like, baby, what I do? Meanwhile, his partner was pillow talking. Her homegirl, quote unquote, my nigga Spike Lee wife, she started speaking on the nigga. She you know, he pillow talk. When he pillow talking, she went to her friend and was like, hey, that motherfucker fighting a white woman. Nigga told him, don't tell nobody, lock your lips. And guess what? His partner sold him up the river. He's back at his people crib. You know, she had said the motherfucker broke it up, all that, about white woman, white bitch, that, all that. And he ends up back in his daddy house. His daddy, you know, Bible thumping, pushing. So you got caught up in adultery. What happened? He, you know, Wesley told, you know, as he back in his room, he came back. He's back at home. He lost his house. Pretty much his wife took it. You know, she was like, nigga, you ain't staying here. He couldn't put her out, so he got put out. So guess what? He's sitting there, daddy at the table, pretty much going back and forth, Bible thumping with him. And, you know, at the end of the day, he was like, you know, you got swallowed up by the whale. Now, that spirit of adultery, the identified as the whale of when God points you in a direction was not the proper analogy, in my opinion. I felt like when he got lost in it, it was the sense of looking at it from the sense of Samson to Delilah. He got in a placement of feeling like he could make this decision in the sense of breaking the covenant of God. And he sits there and he breaks this covenant. His father's like, you broke your covenant. You must have did this and this and that. You know, his mom was like trying to keep her sons in the house. And Wesley snaps back and was like, show a man, you know, with no sin, and he'd throw the first stone. And pretty much identifying us like, man, I'm cut from the same cloth you cut. Giving us an initial understanding of maybe there was some infidelity in the past before he became this Bible-thumping man, Flip's father. It's now creating this identity of now letting you know, hey, bro, I'm just a product of my environment or what you are and what you show me. So then it silences him and they're like, hey, we should just leave this shit where it is, leave it on the flow. And then it transitions from that storyline to his wife's point of view. And this is an amazing cut. I feel like this was an amazing cut on this movie, which then brought so much insight. The same conversations that we watch on TikTok, the same conversations of the discord between, you know, or the conversations, the unhappiness of black women, and the fact that where, you know, he left me for this white trash, this white bitch, went on with this, fucked her, woo, did all that goofy shit, like, he didn't play me out. And you get all these different phases from, you got the lighter skinned women, you have the darker skinned women, you have women that are brown and her group, and this you know, this group of women, and they're on the couch discussing this dialogue of the dissatisfaction, the lack of approval, even going back to colorism, going into the fact of him making this choice, but then his wife still on this identity of saying not all black men are like this. Going into the dialogue of speaking about the blue collar man, the man that may not have that bread, that money. And remind you, this is a movie that is shot describing into the early 90s. So this same discord of these people explaining of what has happened with the women in the sense of looking at it in the sense like he leveling up from used to be light-skinned women black men were attracting to for this appeal to now going into a sense of now getting to white women and their dissatisfaction. And then even like I said, connecting to the wife's idea of that, like give the brother a chance who is not maybe that nigga that's an architect or the nigga that's got this big idea job. Fuck with the dude that's gonna fuck with you on the fact of him actually genuinely being hardworking. And it made me think so many people don't want to look at that hardworking, you know, take and be really drawn to a man that has to put them 90-hour weeks in and drawn to that man who gonna love his family by the sacrifice of the time, the most valuable thing he has, to the factor of him actually spending the time on this job to pay for his home, to pay for his kids' education, to pay for the opportunities for his family to progress beyond the facts of just what I want, but the needs and the very variance of wants. That is still the love of almost like your father in heaven. That's why I can go on a whole nother conversation about the variance of relationships, a variety of relationships, and how the relationships can be of God, and then you got the relationships that are variants of the connectivity of the shiny shit that the devil gets you with. But all that being said, you still got the one friend that expressed like she wants somebody that loves her for who she is, sounding just like the black man, but in the reality of knowing that it isn't the same thing. because in reality, she still gets her judgment for being around the brother and what it is. But just like Adam and Eve, when Eve ate the fruit, nothing happened. And the partner that she had right next to her, a person that pursued and said, don't do this, and was still in the same space of knowing the ramifications that came from God, him knowing the ramifications and his connection of being closest to God as man has always going to be connected to, you're going to get that same reaction in the reality of she can walk and move how she moved, but as a brother, you got to make that conscious decision in the fact of knowing, even in the sense, what you can do with yourself single, but more importantly, him breaking his covenant was the biggest part, and which broke the relationship he had. And the final statement his wife had, which is going to be his ex-wife, I think, is that she generally had a moment of connecting to this space and her being in this vibe. And yeah, it's just that whole vibe of just connecting to, it's, I had the movie started trying to play on me, but, it's just that overall battle that she encountered. And you truly see this from a point of, she still had hope for the black man, still had hope for her brothers, and still in the end, she knew she lost her man, regardless of the color. It hurt more with the white woman, 10 times more. But, they even just spoke about the black men and made me think about how they talked about there's only certain kind of black men out here. You got, if they're not successful and tall and they not this, they have too many options. They can get anything they want. But then also you get the men who then, if it's not the success that draws all these different variants of women, you get then this opportunity where women are throwing themselves at their man even when they got a man. Throwing themselves at their man even when they know that man got a wife or a girl. And that opportunity of when, what it said, pussy available. Excuse my language. And it's the same thing acknowledging that this is the reality of a lot of people. And I've seen this on both ends, even though she lost her man and, that covenant broke and these things, how many straight men are there? How many gay men are there? How many men are, in these different varieties of spaces? How do you expect to generally address those things? How many good picks of men are there? And how it's so much like a small percentage of actual men who are in the percentile that a lot of women draw to. My man gotta be at least 6 foot. He gotta be athletic, and he has to have a good working job, and he's gotta make, $500,000 a year. These expectations, and then when you get this filter, and you do get men in there, how many women are maybe more good looking, more successful, more willing, more submissive, more willing to be in their program for those particular men? And you start to see this number become the fact of, it's the one thing I had a conversation, with, I can't remember, somebody, me and this person was having a conversation about the expansion of, even what Kanye was breaking it down from, having 10,000 women coming at you, but truly trying to seek that one diamond. We all trying to get the diamonds, pearls, and rubies, but most of us make choices and get glass. All of us is looking for diamonds, but you never understand the investment of oil. See, this whole analogy of just looking at it. So that made me think so much of how, the choices of women of color, the colorism, the understanding of maybe how to filter your standards a little bit more to the realism of what you want. If you want to just have a luxury life, but you can't expect this nigga not to have just more than one wife. Can't expect them to have these things, because a lot of men that can say they do those things, but now the challenge is to saying no. Now, in any life, it's cool to find somebody that's going to say no, but to find somebody that is already in the world of industrialism or corporate America, and you get these parties, you get these placements, you get put in these positions of authority, and you get more money and you get more influence and you get options of women that you never thought you could obtain. Same thing as women, but the difference is in which the reality and how things can kind of change for the both is totally different. And then you get that reaction and that real standpoint of how things have now moved forward or have regressed for either or the male or the male or the woman in their respective relationships because of this continuous fight of the world and really the fight of how society has placed us all in this barrel. So it was just a great take, and I just felt like that was a great grab. So this is part 5, and drawing this whole conclusion, huh? It's crazy to me, but very good conversation and very important conversation to have, especially in a community, and understanding that we've been facing the same issues, but now with this, watching this movie that Spike put out, these different takes, I'm now interested to see what's going to happen from it. So here we see. Part 6. Man. There's a pivotal point where, like I said, he confided, talked to his homeboy, tried to pull up on his old ex-wife, and truly he got in a place of reality check. You pulled up thinking shit was gonna be what it was, and it was like his homeboy stopped me like, man, don't even come inside, bro. It's tribal council, nigga. They hanging you, nigga. Meanwhile, he the same homeboy that got him hung. Nigga, hey, he was never gonna break that the relationship with him and his wife. And the first thing which would have been an issue for him, looking from, hindsight, 2020, his biggest issue was gonna be the fact that he was not gonna create a space where he was keeping secrets from his wife. Of his homeboy Spike Lee. So it went to a tethering line of, manhood of, do you keep a secret for your homeboy, or do you keep a secret from your wife? You know what I'm saying? Do you keep the secret of your homeboy or keep the secret away from your wife? And he chose the latter. He chose the opportunity to, keep that open line of communication between him and his wife, in which, led to the demise of his friend's marriage. As you see, he explained to him, he was like, bro, it's your wife doing this, your wife doing that. He's like, nah, nigga, keep my wife out of it, nigga. More or less, it was me. But you should have never did what you did too. Which, in reality, like I say, it's, hindsight 2020. He should have never said he was going to keep the secret. It was the sign of where it didn't matter what he said. It was what he, the word that was broken. And I think that was what more important for me. I felt like it was an issue. He created an opportunity of saying he had somebody's back, but still found the room to still knowing that he had to come to his wife. He didn't set the boundaries and may have caused a disruption in the lives of him and his homeboy. So then going from there, just taking that into consideration, we get into the latter or later parts of this conversation with the two. We start to realize that, the friendship they had is still strong and dependable, and he was happy for him and appreciative for the fact of him. Not saying he was happy for him to be like keeping it real, but his friend stayed in the exact space he had it at. So then moving on from there to there, and the chapter in which he goes to his ex-wife's job. Sorry, I call it his ex-wife because pretty much he broke the boundary of the covenant, and so now really she's on the ladder, and I feel like she about to dip. She ain't gonna stay with Shorty. She ain't gonna stay with him. So he pull up to her job. I'm like, oh yeah, this nigga tripping. This nigga hoeing low key. Cause I was like, yeah, he gonna come there and try to get her back. Nigga, you already, listen, he knew the ramifications of anybody that don't understand the sense of interracial relationships. And then you think about the fact that you went back, leaving your partial half white, half black significant other. And, they end up in this whole relationship, and now with it being explained and what I've had experience on, you violated the fact of the deep secrets and the things in which she's had to battle with her own identity, being half white and half black. And she brought up the issue in which she was like, I knew you always, it was a hint of you being more or less not just a colorist, but somebody that was drawn because you're so dark to people that are lighter because of this lack of self-love, which he combated because she was like, at the end of the day, you've always dated people who were light skinned. You never dated somebody that was a close complexion to yourself, which it draws a question and a thought to everybody. How do you date and what do you date, especially as a black man? What is the image of yourself and how do you see yourself in the sense of women? You know, for me, looking at this in a point of view of my own discovery and my own self, to look in a woman's eyes is to look at the imagery of how that woman loves you, no matter the complexion of that person. But to look at a woman, who comes from where you come from, to know what you know, and to have that unity, it has a greater weight to it, in which that bond that you have to build, you have to be willing to respectfully confide with the truth and not some no lies. So really, when she broke down, like, my relationship with my family, the relationship, these things I've experienced, you understand my level of colorism that I've experienced. How can you deny my trust of me telling my story and what I've experienced from my experiences? And how can you tell me how to feel when in reality you've denied the trust that I've instilled in you early on in the building of our marriage? And the only thing in which she asked him, which was kind of interesting, was the question of, do you love her? And the biggest thing is, for men, he did love her. He did. He did love her. He do love her. He loved both the women. But can you love two women at the same time and clearly love these two women, not based on the color of their skin, but the way they make you feel? But drawing to my other conclusions and me watching this movie before I create my final cuts, coming to this ending of this movie, you're going to look at the point at which the first thing that draws me back to is the issue always been the part of him and his imagery and how he seen himself? Or is it the point of what he feels he's lacking or gotten comfortable with? We gotta see. So that's part 6 for the most part. And we're gonna draw it back into some more conclusions. So let me check it back in. Part number 7, man. Oh, wow. So we're getting into a part where the difference in the relationship that is now being shifted apart. She just expressed to Polly, hey, I'm going my way. I'm going here. This is where I'm going. Polly gonna shut down the shop. It's her, him. And she expresses to him, give him a ring. Listen, it is what it is. And in that important part, she just says, I gotta get out of here. It's time for me to make a shift in my life. She's fully in. She's invested. She knows this is where she wants to be. And as you move forward in this space, and Polly's dad is like, hey man, I ain't been fed in like 10 hours, nigga. You ain't had no food since lunch. Where the fuck you at? Like, pull up. Like, bro, go upstairs, get this shit done. Like, right there, man. Get this dinner going, nigga. Like, what the fuck? So dad pushing him. Meanwhile, this nigga got broke up with. He don't know why his girl gone, but his girl gone. So it shifts into the part where Polly's in the bathroom, and this is just the epitome of, if we're going to talk about mental health awareness, and shout out to mental health awareness for this month and Black Music Month, most importantly, we're going to show you the shift in where Polly, in a sense, the same as any man, had to find his time to cry, not in front of the woman, but cried in his own space, as every man has. If you've ever experienced heartbreak, and we've all have, he found that confined space to where he could relieve that space. And his dad hears him there, and his dad's, not seeking to confide him, because he knows he's not going to confide him. The son knows not. So he has to find a way to get in that bathroom, saying he had to pee and he had to show aggression and all these things to draw this boy to bring him inside, just for him to almost scoff at him for even feeling like Angie, the person he was with since high school, was actually something. And he was like, she was nothing. She was trash. She ain't the kind of woman that's going to dedicate herself truly. And he was like, you don't know Angie. Angie, you know, she been with me. You know, I'm going to make her my wife. He was like, that woman would have made your life hell. In that narrative, in that spirit, we draw back in and you understand, you're like, damn, what the fuck you gonna say she was hell, this? And now it's setting up this pinnacle of what the daddy was seeing, but then it shows you where the scope of where the dad was skewed in his views. He explains, nah, your mother was a wife. Your mother was somebody that had wifely duties. And he expressed not the things of what made her great because of the fact of what he encouraged and he was pushing with her in the sense of a positive space. He pushed on that she performed wifely duties even when in fact he was not being a healthy husband, a man that she could truly confide in, a man she could truly love, or a man that truly loved her. And he said, even in our moments of war, she would never miss a moment to scrub my back. She would never miss these things. And the things he pretty much was encouraging to him was, and with his moment of him having deep regret, he had this moment of understanding he didn't value the time he had with her as she was gone. And with that being said, he was like, you know, she wasn't gonna be dedicated to you the way your mother was dedicated to me, even when I wasn't even halfway even the man that I should have been. And he's like, to the moments he said she didn't speak for him to 2 years, not one word. And she still thought that was love, but in that level of her taking abuse, he found the comfort of understanding after her being gone that it was no more. And he said, I can sometimes hear when you're not here saying to me, kiss me on my lips. And he said in that moment, and you know, I'm collecting myself, and she's saying it to him in this deep thought he has, this cinematic moment as he says, but I could never find her lips. It's because he missed the time. He missed the time to love her appropriately. He missed the time being there for it. He missed that appreciation that he didn't show to her. And it's just to draw on everybody, the deepness of really the power of marriage is that you will go to bat for somebody. You do love somebody. Even when he said marriage was like, you know, nowadays everybody just going to hump. Ain't no premise of love. Everybody just divorce, which is the same situation that's going on now. And like I said, wrapped together, he cannot find her lips. He can't find her anymore because the true valuable women, the one, like he said, for me, this woman was for me. And for fellas, you know, we all seeking for that one that is for me, the one that I care for, the one that I need, the one that I feel like that could do it. Like that's going to provide that that thing that's going to make you Superman. That's going to already, when your cape gets heavy, there's a new level of scent that is on it to now push you further beyond your own expectations, beyond your own extension of power, beyond your own mental capacity, to a level of encouraging your spiritual growth and also your ability to walk to God and to come back to her at the end of the day. Knowing that when you come back from God, you will pick up and you will carry her as much as you can and as far as you can because of the will of God that's placed inside of you. So it's just that drawing moment to really think about it, like how we could always become better people, but looking at it from the aspect of how marriage has been so skewed and destroyed. And I know I've used the word skewed so many times in this video, but these cut, very difficult moments of really standing behind somebody, right or wrong. But we all want somebody to go by right, which is understandable. But we also got to remember not every sunshine is not going to have a rainy day. Those clouds must come. And what we do in the time of the clouds and the rain really defines ourselves. It isn't just by the sense of the lack of respect for one another that creates that issue, but it's the respect for one another to still love, even in the harshness of the war, which we have in life as individuals, man and woman. So that moment with Polly really shows the highlight of where the father struggles with letting go because he didn't appreciate the time with his wife, who was a good woman. And then the variance of Polly, who spent time with a woman who truly, even meeting from high school, coming into high school together, going from this space to going there, could never get that initial, give her enough. She couldn't have enough. She was like the previous, not the part 6, but part 5, part 4, where you draw into the movie of the fact that when black women say because their fathers forbid them to be in a space to not be with these people, be with this people. It don't matter if it's, Israelites with Pakistanians or Africans with, European women with Latinos. It doesn't matter. These things of which to limit is for women to then, as they will always say, to draw to black penis based on the fact of being told not to, just to defy their fathers in a way of, aha, I did what you told me you didn't want me to do, just to defy you. So it's just that epitome of just putting that information in the reality of where is somebody's true intention based on infatuation, or is it truly love? And truly in love, you have to love someone even when in fact that person doesn't love you back. To love somebody is to love for who they are and what their potential, not what they can do for you, but what you can do for them. And hopefully in the return, that love that you've established is a mutual love. It's a love that is benefiting not just one party, but both. But it's not 100%. It's not 130. It's not a 50%. This isn't a 50-50 love. This is 100 going every day. But in reality, that 100 will not meet every day. And we happen to be okay. Maybe I have 65 and you maybe have 40. And we want to create that 100% as much as possible. Try to get it closer to that 200. But for the great days, we get those 200s. Like a rare moon, a starlight after that honeymoon, onto that phase, onto that space, onto the catering of one another. We try to make us close to 200. Our goal is to make it past that 200. Because that 100 that we're supposed to give each other, we have to give the other one more to make sure they're ready to reach their 100%. And we have to mutually hold this 100% as a union. So this is a beautiful space to stop in. And this is part 7. We're still rolling. We're still rolling. In a great movie, we're still rolling. So, yeah. Part 8, man. All right. So, we get to the nitty gritty. First thing first. She gets home. Her daddy beat the fuck out her ass. He put the belt on her ass, smacked the shit out of her. He said, I ain't raised no nigger lover. He kept it P. We're gonna keep it P. We're gonna state what was said, straight to the fact of, he would rather her be with somebody that's a pedophile. Let's get the identity of what he would prefer. He prefers somebody who, Jewish, before she be with anybody that's an eggplant or any of these things in which to distinguish these derogatory terms of what her neighborhood was. And it took her brother's combined effort to pull this man off of her, beat her nearly. He would have beat her to death if he had the opportunity. And her friends came and got her and got out the house. She stayed across over there by her friends for a little bit. And that set the scene of really the dynamic of the racial prowess of being somebody in her community of being Italian to really be, stepping outside her race. And then after you go from there, you get the brother leading up to the point of now it's Polly being in the candy shop after he losing his girl. Everybody hearing about it off the block. Hey, yeah, I heard about her. You gonna beat her? And he was like, nah, her daddy already got to it. He was like, well, you should have got on her too. Like, she embarrassing you, your name, and all this other stuff. And just to talk in the community of how the racial issue and the fact of, voting and how they felt like black men in politics are terrible and all these different, derogatory things that was leading up to, what's the word we would call it, the racial implications of what was going on in the community. So now when you get this opportunity of seeing this community reaching out with a level of aggression, now you're seeing the output of when you're in this scene of really him trying to get people to understand like their racial views. Even when the black woman came in, she had a vibe when she came to get her weekly paper. The fact that she had a positive vibe for Polly. She had a genuine energy. You know, it was a community effort. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, and the black lady, I mean the lady from Poetic Justice, excuse me. So, you know, that setting the president of these people having this racial backing, and then the guys being like, it don't matter, like, I still sleep with a black woman, like, I'll do this, I'll do that, this, but still having this racial issue against the men, and then this issue of, you know, black people in politics, and saying, you know, how below these people are to you. So it just set this level where Polly, who's outgrown his neighborhood as much as she has, he has to make the decision: is he going to leave his father's business behind, or is he going to go seek his own life, or is he going to stay somewhere where he isn't happy to try to find the same love that quote unquote Angie has found? Now, going from that, him zeroing in from out of that space, and everybody in his community being like, you're not really trying to fit in, you get to the next phase of the relationship, and then you start to see the difference in what was really gonna be the destruction for him, and as well as the destruction for everyone else in their development. So when you get all these pieces being put together, and you start to really zero in and see what's really like piecing it into this part of this movie now, and now drawing it back to now her getting her honeymoon. He's asking, you're good, you ain't got no sprains, with Flip and Angie being in their new apartment. You know, he's in this space, he's happy, he's in this quote unquote environment, kissing her, they loving each other down in this honeymoon phase. You know, it's the honeymoon phase. They really don't know much about each other. He ain't even, you know, express a lot of the things that's going on. So then you already drawn from a space of, you're not bringing a person into your life. And a lot of us are guilty of bringing people into our lives who don't know the extent of what's in your life, especially as black men. If you're a black man that's been in a interracial relationship, interracially married, you start to see that some of us do not express as much as we should, and you sometimes keep certain trauma and dark shit in the past, but you never enlighten the person so they can take their own experience into a situation. Now, here comes Gator, his brother, played by Samuel Jackson, knocks on the door. He's knocking. Angie answers the door because he says, oh, I'm his bigger brother. She lets him in because he never gave her the extent of the sickness of his brother being addicted to crack cocaine. So now you're getting into this place where you're seeing the extent of this trauma and this addiction being forefront, where he's like, hey, I'm running people down for the dollars. I'm used to doing this. So you're building this up when he's out here, and he asks him, like, oh shit, you got you a white woman? Da da da. He said, you got some bread? She must got some bread. She gotta be balling. But in reality, he like, nah, she's Italian. He like, oh, you could have got a Jewish bitch. You could have got at least a bitch with some money on. So just showing you the rate of the equal level of not just saying the racial discrimination going to prejudice. Now, prejudice in the sense of skewness of examining the fact that Jewish women were seen as more acceptable as a white woman based on the fact of their financial backing that they would have, compared to an Italian woman or a woman who was Irish, like her father, Angie's father, had brought up. These people are all in the same social class of working the same level of labor jobs, in the same sense of being like black people, but in the sense have a community of sorts which would consider to be white but aren't really white. These variants of off-white, of people that would be considered off-whites. And you see this change in which, he's talking to Gator, and Gator's like this and that. Well, I want to ask the bitch for some money, and he had to check her. He had to check him about it, had to check him about his attitude in the last few moments, and pushing off Gator and letting him know, hey, bro, you move around. But the same thing is Gator keeping track of him, keeping a move on it, knowing where his money is going to be at. Eventually, it's going to be the back end of, he's going to be an issue because he's going to come back. And if he's not the fact that he has this conversation with him, Gator's going to rob him blind. And that's eventually going to be the difficult part about this relationship, is he's going to rob him blind, and he's going to take everything from him that he can to make sure he can pay for his habit. And he's already let him know that he's willing to go to any extent to get his debt paid for, even if it costs somebody's misfortune, like an old person or a person who may be not in the right place. So we getting this set up going into part 8 and going from part 8 to part 9, excuse me. And we're gonna see what we get. We're gonna see what we find in this next part as we close in into the climax and the steady decline to this amazing story of Jungle Fever. So, alrighty, we're gonna see what we do. All right, we're in part 9. I know y'all. This is crazy. How do I even start this? This was a very heavy part. As I said, this the climax. He gets an invite, with his father's family invites him over. His dad and his mom, Flip, they sitting there, and his father goes on a binge of really breaking down the racial discrimination and then the fact of him committing adultery, and his father hinting from the fact of the spirit going in the sense of just them having this word play and battle. But his father, the opposite to Angie's father, who physically abused her and verbally abused her, he verbally abused them with the facts and the hard reality of the history of interracial relationships, tying it back to white women and slavery, the white men withholding white women from the said black devils, and then them going into the bottoms, the ghettos, or the places where there was an abundance of black women and sleeping with these. The double standard, which was implied by the Friends of Polly in the later parts that I broke down. And we really get into the niche of it. You really start to understand like this real battle that is going on for the reality of this interracial relationship between Angie and Flip. And the dad just is not holding no gloves, talks about from the lynchings to the impending dangers that come with it, with the death of black men for following for white women in this said society that we call America. And you break this whole, this, big capture of, these undertones of the perception of others, but also the history in which these things of actions have caused detrimental reactions of many black men in their families from the reaction of white women just having a lustful reaction to the black man. It was so deep. I really don't have any much, like, this can go on for hours almost for the sense of me explaining this concept of where this got so dangerous, one, and how it got so real. And it got real fast. And I think that was where things got to a place where majority of everybody had to kind of like strap yourself in. This is going to be a ride. And Angie got that shit, as well as, Flip sat there, just sitting there, just not even taking on the seriousness of the fact of it, just the embarrassment and the reality of where this shit can get real. And them being early interracial couple in the early 90s. Let's going back, maybe I may be wrong, could be 30 years removed from Jim Crow. And then, facing the still continuous stipulations and dangers of people who are seeing their world in a whole different way, the, epitome of danger. But they didn't see any, you can tell they brushed it off. The father was like, I ain't even with no adultery. Y'all sat here, and it wasn't just the adultery, just somebody that left his family, left his kid. He left his wife and his kid for this woman, in the fact, he stepped outside of his marriage, breaking this covenant of God. The biggest thing is he's damned. She's damned. First thing he implied after you're a Catholic girl, like, they all work on the same premise, even as he was explaining his father was a Baptist preacher. This is the same premise of racial or religious stipulations of understanding the abundance of issue with adultery. And when the father asked Angie, this nigga is not, in his child life, and the fact that what he's doing with this and that, hell yeah. And that's when shit was fucking dead. But even before that, we have to go in a very important scene in which when he met his daughter, and he woke up out the bed with Angie, bro, told Angie, hey, I need to go check on my daughter, check on my daughter, can't see his daughter, took her to school, walking around. He doing the shit he need to do to help, that routine. And she was like, yeah, mommy takes me a different way. And he's like, sometimes it's good to go a different way. Just implying in his own life, sometimes it may be good to just go in a whole different direction. But as he's implying these things and talking about it, he gets ran into by Viv, played by Holly Berry, who's a crackhead. She was like, I suck your dick for $5. But remind you, the fact of how this girl got from this place to being a crackhead could be in the same implications of him not taking care of his responsibilities as a father, his daughter not feeling like she's loved and not feeling like she's taken care of. And he knew that as he's running off and he's like, get off me, he damn nearly gets him and his daughter hit by a car. And the guy's like, watch where you're going. And he then stops to tell his daughter, hey, don't ever let me catch you doing drugs. But the worst thing is he can't stop what is already put in the wheels are already turning. With one foul decision he made, he has damned him and his daughter's fate by the means of his own selfish pleasures. And that was highlighted with the fact that he felt like going in a different direction was the problem. No, the problem was he made a different direction without truly seeking the counsel of the Most High. So, not everybody's a religious person. You can tie it to a lot of different ways on how the pros and cons from karma to even the yin and yang of how things are meant to happen, because as you do good will bring good, and you bring bad, there will be some bad, and in the gray you have to find as much as in between that will now get you into the space of good and not evil. So the interpretations of humans, we see it as gray, but as a person that sees a higher being, there will be light, and light is the only thing that can persist to create the positive. And even in that positive, there still could be some things that we'll consider to create the good of evil, or the lesser evil, through the darkness of what you do in your own self. But not to make it a whole lecture on those things, drawing into the next scene, we're gravitating to now they're driving back, and the first thing is Angie's, they're light, they're feeling like joking, they feel like, we had a tough time, fuck it, tough skin, we hard-headed. They play fighting in the middle of the street, they play fighting, they talking about, she said, I used to box, this and that, talked about all their different experiences, he's manhandling her, he's doing his thing, somebody watching from the window the whole time, everybody in that, reminder, if nobody ever told you, if you ever think you're alone, you're never alone. Somebody's always watching you. No matter what, there's always somebody watching. Before cameras, before the TV cameras, before the refrigerator camera, before the motherfucking phone camera, before the computer camera, before the microwave camera, none of them cameras, there was always somebody watching you physically. Forever. And that moment, they was out and they having a fun time, they manhandling, and somebody still called the police. And they called the police and said he was harassing a black man was harassing a white woman. He was raping her, he was assaulting her, and the police came and they threatened to blow his head off. The reality, the facts of this real tough cameo of destruction that came with it, and the fact of she's like, well, that's my lover and this and that, but in the times they would have killed this man for the facing the fact of, oh, okay, you think you could do this and this, which they would have beat him, knowing this is New York, it's his place in New York. They would have beat him. They would have beat him bad. They'd have beat him when you couldn't see these bruises. They would put that phone book on their ass, and they would have punished him for the fact of him thinking he could be with a white woman. Even in those times in the early 90s, him even knowing those implications, being educated enough, knowing the drawbacks of being with this woman. And then, she's still drawing him as a love, and he's like, I'm trying to save myself in this space of like, we need to keep this shit as far from like people thinking about it. I'm just a friend walking home and this and that. Dude was like, yeah, you got it, buddy. My fault, all that. She was like, nah. He's like, I ain't know it was like that. Somebody called. That's what the policeman was like. Somebody called, say she was getting assaulted. No, I'm good. That's my friend. That gets back. She's trying to confide in me. He cannot be confiding because she didn't understand the rules of what's really going on. She came out here naive, coming from where she coming from, not knowing this has the drawbacks of the reality of being with somebody who is black or brown, and the realities of how the world really works and how it sees them, and how much she has to, almost in a sense, she's gonna have to grow up seeing the darkness in which she was never to be prepared for in the first place. And he left her in the dark from the point of his brother, from the point of the fact he didn't understand. They didn't take serious the covenant. They didn't take serious of the fact of the history of interracial relationships prior to their own. So with this all coming into the viewpoint and the view of the world, it left to where they sitting in the room and she's trying to connect with him and she cannot connect with him, and he doesn't want to be confided in, he doesn't want to be felt on. But in all of this is still his fault, because in everything from the moment when he had the interaction, he could not find, going into part 3 in which I spoke about it, the no. He didn't know what the no was. He didn't know when his no was. He didn't know when to say no. So this created a long-standing issue where his destruction was pretty much destined for impending doom, because he sat there and truly did not, one, address his marriage appropriately, 2, address her appropriately to the game, and 3, trying to live in a fairy tale of disillusion and reality, causing more damage to their relationship, not just by the fact of his brothers and all the things, just everything that was going on. He never put what was really going on, leading to the destruction of his life, as he's an architect with no job, with trying to make his way, with a new relationship, with also money in another household, with a woman who isn't aware. And this all comes back to Flip, and Flip not being responsible. So yeah, that's what we're looking at from part 9. Part 9 is already juicy with the fact that this is the impending doom of the relationships without being aware and being considerate. Being considerate of the dangers and really the lack of communication. So that's part 9 for us. We're about to go. We're nearly to the end of this. So we're gonna see what we do. Part 10. Now, I ain't gonna lie to you. Shit get real fast. I had forgot about part 9. Like Polly, talking to a lady and shit, coming into it. And it's cut off and then goes into part 10 for me. Is like he was talking to a chick, the black lady that comes through from, like I said, the one from Poetic Justice. So finally he gets the gusto. He thinks she fucking with him. He goes talk to her. Pretty much it was a dead end. Like he really thought it was some good positive shit, like he could build a relationship with. Baby was not fucking with him. She was like, I never thought of you like that, Pot. I'm just usually nice and stuff like that, but I fuck with you. Like I fuck with you. I like your swag. I like all that shit. So she was like, she pretty much nicely declined them and kept it pushing. Like, I think about it, but not really. So he goes back. The boys at the shop, like, bro, you don't let this motherfucking chick dish you, nigga. You above her. All this big macho shit. Which then it all boils down to, it gets to a colorism thing. Like, your mama extra dark anyway, and talking about one of the dudes in the shop, and another guy like, ain't your brother a crackhead? So it's like it was this consistent, benevolent like attack of issues through their issues of inward hate, and it comes back to this inward dislike, or you're not light enough. The colors on that attacks, the blacks, the whites, and all the people that everybody think that is all trying to aim for this identity of purity. Just like even, the dad and Flip's dad, the Reverend, spoke on, the instance of this higher being of what you look at white women and white men, this purity. So now we get into a deeper part of it after, all these things and popped off, and, he's sitting there and really acknowledging the reality of his life and what's going on with the colorism. Polly is, it goes into another chapter in the reaching in to now he's, Flip is with the mama, and she like, I need my color TV back. Your brother said he was going to borrow real quick to watch the Mets game. He took it, pretty much sold the TV. He did crackhead shit. So she tells him, he like, Flip tells his mama like, shit, the nigga's a fiend. Like, it is what it is. There's nothing we can do for him. We just gotta let him be. So long story short, she like, fuck it. Don't talk to your brother like that. Don't, even though he my first son, regardless, y'all my boys, I love y'all. Like, you know, don't talk back, come back with this TV and come back with your brother. And he went there, went through the hood, ended up leading him to a crack spot. One of the top sellers was like, hey, it's like they call it the Posm Hall. Well, the crackheads smoked their crack. And they sent everybody over there, and he went over there and he went to see, and he was looking for him and breathing in that crack smoke, and he think he found him, but then he finally did find him smoking the rock with Vivian, Halle Berry. And you get this whole vibe, and he's breaking it down to me like, man, he's like, man, I'm a crackhead. We smoking the TV right now. He getting into a Viv. Shit was funny as fuck. Like, shit was hilarious. Like, Flip trying to, build it, but he eventually was like, bro, we cutting you off, bro. We can't fuck with you no more. Like, this right here, you went too far and nothing I can do. You broke us too far away from where we're supposed to be at. And it's like, you're not being at that pinnacle and don't fuck with us no more. And that left a feeling for him where, Gator, Samuel Jackson sitting there like, damn, like, feeling that pulse of where he's like the moral issue of him letting down his family, eventually knowing this, the dancing, the dancing for the rock shit, and finally wore off. And while Vivian, one thing about crackheads, a crackhead, I ain't gonna lie, them some motherfuckers, when they some friendly motherfuckers. If they fucking with you, they gonna do everything by the means we together. They got some crack love. That crack has something about that shit. Crack love is that shit need to be got them need to be experimented on. Cause dog, them motherfuckers talk to each other rough, get rough, hitting each other, all kind of shit. Motherfucker, that love they got around that crack rock, I don't know what it is. It's like that shit keep you strong. Keep you strong. The relationship be strong as hell. Damn near as hard as a goddamn rock. Difficult to break. And then we break into the final chapter, and where Wesley's sitting there with his, his white girl, Angie. And that's why I say he got caught the white girl, because this is when he split that bed in half. He done split it, and he like, bro, I'm not fucking with you no more, for real. Like, and she like, you in no future, like, we not gonna have kids, you don't think? He was like, I'm I gotta get married to have kids, I gotta have this, I gotta have that. He still got his standards and morals, but now the reality after fucking damn near getting the whip beat out him, motherfucker, the pistol get pulled on him, he literally gonna lose his life. He like, man, I ain't bringing in them lotto kids, I ain't doing this, I ain't doing that. In this level of colorism, going back to the colorism, the battle of, now he's like, I'm not leaving nobody out here. He said that most mixed people eat mixed bags. They mix nuts, they say. It's a lot of shit that don't be wired right. And the thing is, it's like now she's like, well, you starting to sound more like you starting to sound like the prejudice that's coming from my own family. Like these people that have this set premonition of racial, tension and issues, which it was truly what it was. She was literally running into a cycle, as well as he was accepting this cycle of the fact of self-hate. Because now, since the spot been blown up, now since all that shit ain't fun and dandy, now he realized that the strikes of reality and the expectations and the things that come about the decision he made, and him having to initially let go of his family, and this dream has now been completely now tarnished for him to think he can live this quote unquote, not say perfect life, but to think you're gonna avoid all of this, implications of destruction that you've committed upon your family, and think he's like, in him having enough sense knowing he's not gonna be able to start no new family in good faith, that things were gonna be some form of positive. So it's like he then ended up taking himself out of the equation, and with him taking himself out of the equation and really letting Angie know, like, bruh, like, this shit, the illusion is over for him, really. Now the fever is coming down, and he's now going into the reality and striking his mind, and like, oh shit, this shit getting real now for me. Like, let me kind of let her know, and she know. And then when he woke the fuck up, Angie was gone. And for you fellas and y'all, you keep it real, you let that illusion be broke. We remember that when they say, we live for the illusion, they live for the illusion. They living for that, that they drunk on the hot sauce. And I think as soon as they get off that hot sauce, they out the door. And he was, as soon as she started to know, hey, it was no illusion no more for me as much as for her, shit, she was gone. He woke his ass the fuck up. Angie's not here. She's not here. She gone, buddy. She gone. So it's just what it is. So that's part 10. And we're gonna wrap it up with 11. And that's gonna be really how we're gonna tell this story. This is crazy, but it's exactly, it's the jungle fever. It's the jungle fever. Alrighty. We're part 11, the end. We just gonna keep it point blank, period. He came back. Angie went, tried to talk to her little boys, get the Polly, trying to get back to Polly. Polly said, man, nah, you ain't just gonna come back after you gonna fuck around with that nigga, cause shit, stay where you was at, ho. Shit, it's good to see you back in the neighborhood, but hey, deuce. Keep it pushing. So my boy Polly, he stayed up on his standards, and I'm mad at the nigga for that one. Polly could have really let her wizard ass back in. She came back. She thought she was gonna break it off on Wesley. Had that nigga be stuck trying to play the long game after she tried to go back to Polly. Nah, Wesley was like, shit, I know you was here to defy your father, and I was, you wanted to try some black meat. I wanted to try some white meat. And, he pushed on from there. I think that was where, kind of things went into, the long game. You know what I'm saying? The long game. So, shit turned out to be a little, little shitty. But he was like, listen, I ain't gonna sit here and play no game. But he was empathetic. He had emotional intelligence on the fact of, he's like, shit, I'm just gonna try to make it work with my wife. I know it's no longevity. I'm over this. Like, I know, you playing it on some weird shit. I'm playing on some weird shit. Let's, separate ties. He said, I'm moving out of this apartment. Which, listen, fellas and ladies, if you ever leave in a relationship and something and you are having the money to do what you need to do, get your ass the fuck out from that space as soon as possible. Because whatever space you laid in, and the fact, especially in the sense when he created adultery and he moved in with this girl and did all that, those spirits is coming with you. Even if you don't believe in spirits, whatever you want to think it is, whatever bad you did, where y'all ever was and wherever y'all been, that shit's corrupted. There's no going back. The restaurant, the food, the car, the bike, whatever you had, y'all obtained together and decided to share, with. So he decided to dip. He was like, hey, I know, your situation ain't like that. You just moved up to Harlem. You was, fucking with the vibes. We doing it. Like, let's, but you can keep this crib. I'll be out of here tomorrow. She was like, nah, it's great. Like, I'm just gonna have to face the music, handle it. She wasn't even saying all that. She dipped. When that door closed, it was like he was freeing himself from that space, and he allowed the shit to be what it was. He's like, let me just removing away from the bullshit. You know what I'm saying? And in Polly's example, Polly had to tell his daddy, like, nigga, you ain't gonna just treat me like your wife. He had this shit had that man doing all the shit for him and everything else. And as long as he did something for him, he treated him just like how he was treating his wife. He loved her so much, but he was, the nigga was controlling. Buddy was controlling. Polly daddy was controlling his fuck. So when he left, the scene of the people being outside the store and him walking and getting, having a confrontation, trying to get away from the old shit, the prejudice, the racial bias, the things that hold him back. He had to fight his way out of just to go to that girl house. And, he got with that woman, he was fighting to get to that black woman and, to find that real love for somebody that can do something for him, somebody that cares for him. And, that's what he did. He fought and literally physically had to fight to get to the other side. Niggas to jump this nigga, and he made it there. So then on an example, when you think about old girl, you start to realize that Angie went back to the crib. She went back to her daddy house. After all that shit she did, she went back to her daddy house. She fucking cut dry, went back to her daddy house, sucked that shit back up. He let her back in. And listen, shit, the story rolls on. One thing about it, she got her experience. And then leaves Wesley. He comes back with his it's a scene him going back. It's his wife's house. And guess what? He came over there, bust the doonies down. He's chilling there. He trying to work his way back into his family. Now, for that, a lot of men, I was like thinking this shit was a Walt Disney film. I'm thinking in my mind, oh, this nigga got the light skin back. I'm kind of jelly. But no, he didn't. He worked his way in with a foot in the door. It's still better. Anything else you say, a foot in the door is way better than not having no foot at all. So he made his way. And, his daughter was happy that he was back in home. And she was trying to see if it's going to be like the old times. And that shit was dead. It wasn't like the old times. But he said, she's like, I'll be there soon. And he then understood the level of patience. Patience doesn't mean you're stuck waiting. It means you're in the sense of a progress to where something can be moving. It's kind of like something's in the delivery stage, like you made the purchase, now it's in the delivery, like it's in the transit. Now you're going to be getting to the point where it's getting to like that local transit, and then you get to it's out to delivery, and then it's, oh, we coming to your crib, we're on the way. And that's exactly how we have to look at being patient in our walk of any way, from relationships, good and bad, and in the walk of our work, and the walk of our families, relationships, the walk of anything. It don't matter what it is, you have to find that level of patience. And when you find that, you find where you really need to be and where you want to be. And I think that's when Wesley had made that flip, and Wesley made that transition. But we cannot forget, because I know I'm talking this shit out of order. Most of this, y'all gonna be laughing at me because this is not the order of the movie. It's just my initial thoughts on parts. But to wrap it all up, even looking at Gator came back, harmed his mama, then they snatched the driller out that lady's neck, looking for that damn shit. She had to tell that nigga it was custom, not real. Nigga, he was gonna snatch that shit off her neck. That stuff had him turned. And it had a lot of people turn. And when, Reverend, his father came back, I had the mama call him Reverend Doctor. Nigga, I ain't even got the nigga name, Reverend Doctor. That's how she called this man, Reverend Doctor. I said, damn, shit, it's a stepdaddy, no, it's a real daddy. But it showed you the disconnect. And, he said, man, I brought you in the world. You turned out to be wicked. You better off dead. He sat there and popped off. Daddy set the rules, told him what it was. And he shot that motherfucker in his goddamn chest. He shot that motherfucker and kept it pushing. He wasn't playing with his ass. He had nothing to really say. He popped that motherfucker when he said, Mama, I got a new move. When that nigga hit that little jiggy, and he popped his goofy ass, I said, oh, God damn. He popped that nigga right in his motherfucking stomach. Killed his ass on the floor. Mama was like, my firstborn son. Had cleaned that nigga Gator out of that motherfucker, boy. That nigga sat there and quote the most gangster shit. This nigga quoted a scripture as this nigga was fading it off into the abyss. I said, God damn, nigga, that's some gangster shit. The go out, pray, and then go off a scripture after you pop somebody? Boy, you was a gangster, boy. That's gangster. I don't care what nobody say. Somehow I pull up and say the last words you heard in your mouth was the scripture you was sent off with the Lord. That man gave you comfort of God and then sent you on with the word. That's a different level. It'll give you a moment to repent. It really do. Like when you think about it. So just to wrap it all up, the final niche, and just looking at this whole movie, it just showed me part by part the initial challenges of the fact that when you make a choice out here, fellas, ladies, the ramifications. What are you willing to deal with? What are you not willing to deal with? And when that honeymoon stage, when that, the delusion, that's the delusion. I've learned this word myself. The delusion wears off with you and that particular person. What are you going to stand for? Are you going to sit there and stay in the delusion when you can see the clear trajectory of the destruction that is going to be led for you and that person based on mostly some of the actions of us fellas? Fellas, you got to be better on your actions. A lot of the things that go wrong, a lot of people sit here and you complain. But this movie showed us, this is a Spike Lee special showing the relationships of us in that destruction is so tied to our decision making, and also it's tied to when you make those decisions, are you going to stand by it, or are you going to allow the things in which you think you did to just stay on the forefront and cause you and that other person that really didn't sign up for the destruction? As he knew, she went out there for the fever, and he went out there for the fever too. And when that jungle fever wore off, and all y'all worlds aligning to really having a life that goes on to the next level, you got to get past that the illusion. Are you able to move forward with this person? Is this person really able to really look at your life and look at their life and see what is real? Because it's cool to be in a interracial relationship, but like I said, like Flip, like Gator, these people all have to deal with the consequence of, does that person understand the circumstance of your life? Do they know what it really is? I had something more than just that black skin. Same thing, it's more than just that white skin. It's more than just that Hispanic skin. The culture, the lack of culture, the culture in this, the culture of that. Are you willing to get past the prejudice? Are you getting past the negativity? Are you willing to get past the love-hate relationship? Are you willing to get past the bigotry? Are you getting past the racism? Are you going to get past the trauma of you and your significant other and y'all individualized and y'all family's lineage? Are you willing to get past those things? And in a lot of these relationships, that's what make or break you. Are you willing to get past and start anew? As he already has started a covenant, he was not going to end the covenant. His mindset was never to end the covenant. But people outside of a covenant, are you willing to have somebody? Is there somebody that's going to sacrifice for you in that same space? And as he walked his daughter, he knew, even when he told her maybe soon, and the reality came in and set in, and the next thing he hits that corner, instead of being Holly Berry, this girl comes up more similar, looking like his daughter. Can I suck your dick for $2? And he does the iconic, he grabs her head to his chest and he screams out, just the goofy shit. But it's iconic now, as I seen that clip long before. Now I've seen this movie in full scope. I would give this movie a 9 out of 10. This is why Spike Lee was one of the greatest and is one of the greatest film directors of our time, because this captured the realities of black society now and then, the realities of ramifications, the reality of black and brown relationships, the reality of interracial relationships, and the reality of what you must face individually coming into an interracial relationship back then that had so much more weight to it. You know, we came in a time now, it's heavy, but it's so prevalent, it's not as daunting as it used to be. It's a lot more acceptable and seen in different ways, and not as much pushback because of those people, the early relationships of interracial relationships. The early interracial relationships. I'm double down on it, so I know it's coming to the end, but you know, I would recommend this to anybody. Jungle Fever, one of the best. Great picture, great style, great acting, and great vision to a time in the 90s, to the time to the future, and to looking to the time in the past. For y'all, I love y'all. This is the Barrel City Podcast, and we're going to be doing many more movie breakdowns in the future. In due time, I see you all with peace and love in your hearts, forever in love. You're your boy, Hassani.